your client calls you, you lost that day.
And I think that's the mistake most agents make in referrals is they don't sell the value of what happened.
You know, a lot of agents use social media and they hide behind social media, thinking they're communicating with clients. Welcome to the Signature Buzz, your go-to podcast for real estate professionals looking to elevate their game. Today, we're going to dive into leverage client referrals for lead generation. I'm Brandon Roberts, and always I'm joined with my trusty co-host, Chris Bishop.
Well, Brandon, I'm super excited to be here. And we have a topic that's near and dear to my heart, one that is hopefully 50% of your business by leveraging past clients and referral business from out-of-state agents and all the people that don't live where you live. So I'm excited about this topic and excited to be here as well.
Well, and I'm super excited that we are joined by the amazing, I don't know who wrote this, but the amazing guest, Keith Lynam, who is our broker of the coolest office in Green Valley, as he self-titled it. But Keith, you know, a lot of our agents know you, and some of our listeners may have heard of you because you're kind of a legend in the Las Vegas market. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been doing real estate, and yeah, we'll start there.
I think the connection is back. Can you repeat what you just said for the last like 30 seconds? I didn't hear. I didn't hear the
You just want the amazing part.
Amazing
back,
part,
right?
yeah. Can we run through that? No, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you guys, and been doing this. I got licensed in 2004, and had some amazing mentors and learned some things. And Frank Napoli Sr., if you guys remember Frank, I used to get to spend a lot of time with Frank, and it always amazed me at the volume. He was the volume guy before volume was, and yet he did a lot of the things that I profess to, and we talk about just the daily interactions with his clients. And so I've been an instructor at LVR. I've been a coach, a ninja certified, one of the few ninja certified coaches across the country. And so this is an enjoyable time. And this will be the show. The award-winning podcast is finally here. So I love this podcast that you guys have done. So big fan.
So this is the show that'll make it award-winning. Huh?
It's finally over the top. You know, the guy Scott from Utah, he was close. It was good. But this will be the one that'll put over. All due respect, Scott, this will be the one to put it over.
I do think it's proper to use Keith's official title, the Vice President of Disruption. It could be more fitting than to Keith. But I've had the honor of serving with Keith through the local board of realtors in the state. I was lucky to run against him and run with him many times, and have spent many a night toasting to his success. So I think it'll be a great podcast for sure.
As the dead air takes over.
The dead air, right?
Pause for commercial.
I was just waiting for mom to come in and help. So that's
Let's start this conversation off right. You know, Keith, from your perspective, I know your business is tremendous with referrals, and you've made a process for that to happen. So tell us what your referral business looks like, and what should it look like for the average agent out there?
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we talked and we discussed, and Brandon's got the academy, which is phenomenal. And I've talked to people that have gone, and I've said, you know, the best thing, no, not the best thing. One of the great things about that academy is it will get you out of your comfort. It will get you out of your comfort zone, and that's what we all need. And so, as we've talked and as I've discussed this, I still think the best and easiest and most effective and efficient way of getting an escrow open is to focus on the people that already know you, already like you, and already trust you. Those are the numbers that are reflecting of that. But at the same time, yeah, it's okay to do the other things. But when you focus on just your SOI, your past clients, your friends, and again, those that know you, like you, and trust you, is going to catapult you to the next level. Earlier this week, I was talking to someone who was frustrated, down, and I don't know about you, but that's a lot of agents out there now. They're just frustrated because it's not as easy as it used to be. You know, it used to be you wake up and you had a client and a listing, and that's not the way anymore. And so I told her, I said, you step back and let's start over and let's start talking about what you can do. I told her five 5 postcards. Just write them out in the morning. How long is it going to take you to write 5 postcards? That's all I want you to do this week. 5 per day. That's 25. Next week, let's call them. And so she started writing. This was Monday. She called me yesterday evening and said one of the people that got the postcard already called her and said, "Oh my God, it's been so long. Get caught up." I told her how to talk to these people because next week I'm going to have her call all those people, but talk to her about what's forward, the family, occupation, recreation, and dream. She just went into it. She's going to get a listing. They're ready to sell, and they're ready they're downgrading their home. They're downsizing their home. And so to say this stuff works, And now the key is to become consistent about it.
Okay, so I promise not to get into this cold call debate, SOI debate, because I built my business on that. But part of the academy is talking about your sphere, the warm market, because I think long term that's where you've got to be if you want referral business and you don't want to have to burn yourself out on calls all the time. So we agree on more than we think sometimes. But
Absolutely.
let me just what you said there makes sense, right? So she sent out some postcards. She got business right out of it. So why do you think most agents struggle with getting referrals or contacting their sphere?
Sure. That was Monday. This is now Thursday, Friday. That doesn't happen. Yeah, I wish that happened because, man, I tell you, we would never have heard of Mike Ferry or Tom Ferry. You'd hear Keith Lynam. I can guarantee you that. But so here's what happens. And there's a graphic about the guy with a pick underground. He's dug down. He's going across, and in this picture there's all kinds of diamonds and jewels, and he's this close, and then he just this shit doesn't work, right? And so he gives up. He's this close. He gives up. That's the agent. They figured out that this will never work, and so they give up. And you're right. I don't have to cold call because I know enough people, and most people do. But that doesn't mean that I won't cold call, or I won't door knock, or I won't do all those things. The numbers reflect, though, what you need to do. Cold calling, you need to do 500 to get one client. Hey, that's perfect. If you don't know anybody, you can just start churning through 1,000 people. Guess what? You're going to have 2 people at the end of the day. That's cool. That's good. I don't care what you do, just do it. And don't get frustrated enough, and don't lie to yourself and say, "Oh, I can do this at home," or "I don't need a group," or "I don't." That's the biggest lie we tell each other. Second biggest. First is we're multitaskers. Every realtor is a multitasker. That just means they're doing a lot of stuff very badly. Stop lying to yourself about that. And then also you need that culture. And I think that's what we bring to the table the best. If you ask us what I think Signature brings, is we bring the culture. We have people out here right now that are calling, that are talking, and they're just talking about the business that they're getting. They're not isolated in their own. That makes sense?
I love that you guys both brought up cold calling and the your center of influence, your past clients. And one of the things I've always told agents, new into the business, it's funny because brand new agents always want to go out and call random people they don't know because they're fearful of talking to people that they do because they think they're going to fail or they think they won't respond. I mean, I even had an agent brand new that wouldn't call his family because he didn't want them to know he was in real estate. He wanted to keep it a secret until he was successful. And I think that that's the problem is that cold calling forces you to come out of a comfort zone and do things you're not used to doing. And it's weird and it's uncomfortable and people yell at you. But once you get that talent down, you can talk to anyone at any time. And I've always told people that cold call until you build the skill to be able to talk to the people you know. And I think that's what's in their brain. They can't figure that out. But every agent I've seen that's come in, like you said, Keith, and they called everyone they knew in their sphere, all the people they went to school with, all the people that they grew up with, that they worked other jobs with, they immediately get success in our industry and they have a better business. And I've always kind of felt I'm going to do all of these things, door knocking, cold calling, open houses, until I have enough people in a database that I'll never have to do them again. And I think that that's the crazy part about you're both right. And it's just how we all get there is so strange. I just don't understand it. Why do they have such a fear of talking to people?
There's 2 things. One, they're making it about themselves. I said, if you're afraid of something, you're making it about yourself. If I call you, Chris and Brandon, to give you great news, And am I going to be nervous about that? If I'm truly calling you to say, hey, this is great stuff, this is good, I'm not going to be, because I'm rewarding you, I'm enriching you, I'm making your life better, I'm bringing value to your life.
Yeah.
That's the switch that a lot of agents need to make in their head, is they're making it about themselves. Oh, yeah. Well, if you're delivering things of value, you're going to be excited about calling. If you're not, then you got to review what the hell you're saying on the phone. I mean, and Chris, I think one of the things that's the secret to our mental is it's like marriage. People get in a rut, right? And I'm hearing this a lot. I know you guys are too. I'm in a rut. I'm stuck. It's because their routine, their marriage, their relationship has become one. It's never different. That's why people have affairs. They have to have something different. And so I'm not suggesting you go out and have an affair. But what I am saying is
That is a way to meet new people.
that's that's a whole different kind of cold calling, Bishop.
Yeah.
If Amy, he's kidding.
Yeah. I won't be able to dial.
But that's the part that you need to change up in your life to get out of the rut. And that's what I mean by breaking out of your comfort zone. If that means going to Brandon's academy and door knocking to get yourself out of that and wake yourself up to being uncomfortable. Have I ever told you my lobster story? You guys want to hear my lobster story?
No. Of course we do.
I should
Does
have
it come
asked.
with pictures and illustrations?
Shouldn't have asked. You should just led with
I
it.
know that's the cardinal rule with you two. I should have asked anything. I should always just apologize afterwards when the only way the lobster grows is they get so tight in their lobster shell. They cannot grow. They've filled out the lobster, and the shell is not going to give. It's a plate of armor. So in order for them to grow, they literally have to shed their shell. They have to get out of their shell, and that's the most vulnerable they'll ever be. They can find a rock to crawl under, and in the meantime, that's when their new shell grows. But the only way they grow is to become vulnerable. And that's what we need to do as an agent, is sometimes you got to be vulnerable. Cold call, door knocking, open houses, whatever it is that makes you uncomfortable and vulnerable, you need to do that.
Just like Sesame Street, I learned a lesson.
I got a story about Big Bird, but I don't know if we can talk about that on this one. So
I just want to be clear on the things that we're addressing. And so the point of it is, that everyone, I think, built in, just stepping into the business has a built-in database that they really don't recognize or see. And it's the people that they know, that they've been around, that they interact with on a daily basis. And then I think it's all the unspoken people that they don't think about. When you go to the grocery store and there's that person who consistently checks you out, you know the smile on their face, but you don't maybe know their name. And there's all these interactions that people have on a daily basis that could be the extended reach of their database if they really pulled them in. But yet, just because of the way we think and the way we act, we go and find all these other activities to meet these people that we don't really interact with in our areas or where we live or any of that. So Keith, for you, I want to talk for just a second about the area that you've conquered. I mean, you live in a high-rise community, and like so much so you're there that they call you the mayor of Turnberry. And so I want you to explain to me how you became the unofficial, unelected, maybe there was an election, mayor of Turnberry, and how you get so much business from that group of people.
By not selling real estate. And there's obviously a fine line by that, but be the cat, not the dog. And you guys have heard this story, but that's what I was. I was in the cigar lounge. I was in that dining room. I went to the events, and everybody that has a dog that's been out all day long and come home knows what happens. That dog comes up to them and jumps on them, and I love dogs. But everybody's reaction is kind of settle down. Let me put my things away. I love you too, buddy. But you're pushing him away. Now, everybody that has a cat knows that if you're out all day long and you come home, the cat, if the dish is empty, the food bowl is, they may slap it towards you like, you idiot. It's not full. But then they turn around and walk off. And what do? They follow the cat. here, kitty, kitty, kitty. They're following, they're pursuing them. And that's why I say be the cat, not the dog. And so that's how I got to be known as the guys. I had people say, "Hey, I just found out you did real estate. What's the market?" Every time they learned and found out I was in real estate, they asked that secret question. And then from there, you put them in your list and you do what I call the boom producer journey 9. And we'll talk about that in a little while.
So, Keith, you said you put them in your database or on your list there. I mean, what do you use to manage your database?
Great question. And and up until now, nothing. An Excel sheet. And that was the downfall in what my business became, is because you can't manage it. I don't care what I can't manage. You can't manage a database through an Excel sheet. And so I'm testing out a few of them now. I really want to make this year that year that I take them up. But up until then, it was just an Excel sheet. And what I do is there's, and we'll get into them in a while, but 9 things every day, every week that I would touch them with. And started off with an 8. Once I met you, I put you in what I call the 8 and 8 file. And I had an 8 and 8 Turnberry file that I would put you in. That's 8 touches in 8 weeks.
So you were consistently these people is the point.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really where it turns, is you got to be going through the 8 and 8 real quickly. I mean, the first week was the handwritten card. I always start off with a handwritten card, and I don't put my card in there. I've got a QR code in there, but I don't put my card in there because, again, I want to be the cat, not the dog. And I've always felt if you put that in there, you're saying, hey, yeah, nice to meet you because I want to sell you something. That's not why I wanted to meet him. So I didn't put my card in there, and I just would put in there, hey, it was great to meet you. Something personal about it, about the interaction that I had, or something along those lines, or hey, if they were just purchased a house or place in Turnberry or rented one, I put a free drink in there that I was going to host. I did a quarterly free drink for every new resident. That's the first week. So handwritten postcard. Second week, I called them. I just stuck to the 4. Again, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. 5 steps. I'd go through it and I'd call them. Third week, I sent them a value, Turnberry as a whole, not their specific place, but as a whole. So of the 8 weeks, the 3 were automatic. That's what I did for the first 3. And then the final 3, the week 7, I'd call them again, forward, 5-minute conversation. And then I would ask and set an appointment to give them a value of their home, or if they were renting, something that was comparable to what they were looking for. So of the 8 weeks, 5 of them were already taken care of. I just needed to fill 3 of them with something else.
I love that you said.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Brent.
No, go ahead.
You said rentals in there, and that's something that I think is pretty cool about conquering a neighborhood or a market area. Is it's about the people, not the place, right? Those tenants that are in a property will move up to buy someday. Those people buying may want to sell and rent. And so if you're really going to be the leader of that area and the go-to realtor, it's about everyone's necessity. I think people forget that these are just people, just like you and I. They have dreams and desires and wants and needs. And all you did was be their friend and provide value. But you didn't say, please buy with me, please sell with me. You just provided the value, and they came to you and said, hey, will you help me? I mean, you can't convert a lead easier than that, can you?
Yeah, I mean, it's if you're providing value of something, hey, they're not gonna freak out when you come in. Versus if you're always pitching them on something. We all have that friend that has been in 1,000 different deals, 1,000 different business opportunities. Has sold Tupperware to facial products to. That's a big thing in our industry right now. But every MLM in the world. See how to get that shot in there. Every MLM in the world. And what do we do when we see that person walk in? We oh my God. When they call, we see it on the caller ID. Oh my God, it's the caller ID test. So you don't be that. Everybody likes to buy something, but nobody wants to be sold. So I feel that. It's like when you walk on a used car lot. It's you're in combat. It's like stepping off the chopper in Vietnam for some of these people. It's like this is combat.
So when you meet somebody, you put them in your database, your spreadsheet, and there's nothing wrong with using an Excel spreadsheet. You
No.
just got to have some place where you compile everything, and that's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
one of the big things is that hold people back is, well, I've got to get this contact management system. Yes, they can be effective and help you, but you've got to have a list. So
Absolutely.
you meet this person, they move into Turnberry, you put them through the 8 weeks. So that's good, but you can't, or maybe you can. What do you do the rest of the year? I mean, with these people, and then people that have been in your database for a long time.
Yeah, so I've got what I call in our coaching program the Boom Producer Journey 9 +1, and it's what I do every day and every week. And it's a morning ritual, it's an evening ritual. It's number one, daily gratitude. You wake up with gratitude, and there's a little bit of beyond just the issues of contacting. You got to have your right mindset, and I think that's the tipping point for a lot of agents, and that's why I encourage them to come into the office. Is their mindset at some point, and we're all there. We all have this. We all spiral out of control, right? It's not always roses. There's times where you know what we kind of get down. Even Brandon gets down. Everyone, I'm convinced of it, right? He doesn't show it, but I'm convinced.
Are you saying he's going to boogie down?
Yeah, maybe that's what he does every morning. Maybe he wakes up and then he just starts boogieing down. So maybe that's what he does. For me, and I think most people, is I wake up and before I get out of bed, but before I get off the couch or out of the car that I passed out in that night, I think it's something to be grateful. These are the jokes, people. I think it's something to be grateful for, and I try to come up with two. And it's not just I woke up. Although some nights that isn't a miracle, but it's something that I truly get down deep and I feel grateful for something in my life. And for me, and I think for most people, that has to be the first thing. Otherwise, and you heard me say this, it's like getting out of bed and you step on a Lego with your bare feet. You just start your day off on the wrong foot. And then the next thing is you show up. As firm a believer as waking up with a great attitude and appreciative and being grateful. It's staying away from social media. It's staying away from your emails. I try to get into 10 o'clock, and that usually doesn't work, but I try to get to at least 9 o'clock before I look at emails. I will go on Facebook and post something real quick. I'm sure you've all seen the stuff I post on in the mornings. It's something of gratitude. It's a funny post. It's something that I try to just deliver of value. That's all I'll do. I won't go down the rabbit hole of actually looking into Facebook and everything else, because I don't want people setting my agenda and getting me pissed off. As you know, it's easily done. And so I try to stay away from all that. But then there's where the work comes in. I write 2 notes. So Brandon, to answer the question, I write 2 notes every day. Handwritten notes. Aside from the people that I just met and going in the 8 and 8, I will pick 2 people and write them a personal note of thanks. Of I'm thinking of you. Their kid did something, whatever. I just send them good Starbucks. Hey, if we get a chance, let's go sit down. Here's a Starbucks. I want to buy a coffee, and I give them the Starbucks certificate right up front. And then here's the key part: is I focus on my hot list. Those that I'm going to get in touch with that I know that I can get into the contract within 30 days. That's the hot list. Mine, you guys think I'm lying, but here's my hot list. Can't really see that.
Why is it blurred out? You don't want us to take the lead?
Yeah. It's blurred out. Well, it's like I look like those dirty movies. Like you're like, hey, what do I got? That's why we're award winning, Brandon. That's why we're award winning. So I carry this. And it's got my hot list in it. And for me, it's got to be a visual. It's got to be, you can actually see, you see it. It's something I write down and you see it, and it's a mental. It's not in a computer. It's not on a screen. So I focus on my hot list and who can write a contract with. And then the warm list, that's 60 days. So I've got a warm list, hot list, and I focus on that. And mentally, that gets me in the right frame of mind, because then now I'm working from abundance. And what else does that do, to go back to the point, is it now gets me in touch with those people. I have a purpose to call, because when I think of, hey, Brandon, I forgot he's going to buy something. And then all of a sudden, oh, you know what? He's friends with Chris. So it'll add on to that. And then I focus on my customer service. I call everyone that's under a contract or every buyer that I've got. And if it's just, hey, I don't have anything for you today, I still make that call to get them to just make sure that they're there. And then I schedule 2 reviews. Here's the other key to that. I go through and I make sure that I'm reviewing everybody, and not once a year. I'm to do it once a quarter, but schedule 2 reviews for that. And then finally, 50 live contacts. So 10 a day. That could be calls. That can be I ran into Chris at the grocery store. As long as I ask them a forward question, then that'll count as one of my 50 contacts that I've done. And so if you do that every day, every week, you're never not going to be busy because it has a way of taking the momentum on of itself. And was there anything hard about that?
No, that sounds like a day of average activity. But I really pulled out of it, like, and you've said this many times, is even the current clients that you're in a transaction with that have bought or sold, you're calling every day or interacting with them every day to say, hey, everything's going well, don't worry, or hey, here's what we have. I think that's a big mistake a lot of agents make, is they go long spurts in a transaction without saying anything. And I could understand if I had $500,000 or $600,000 of my money on the line and I'm not hearing from somebody, I might start to freak out. And I think that's such a great way to give a great client experience of why people return the business and why they refer to you, because you're involved every day. Every day.
If your client calls you, you've lost that day.
Yeah.
And I don't care whether they called you. If they've called you, you've lost that day. And there's science behind this. I don't just make that. I make up a lot of stuff in life, but
Okay.
there's actually science behind this. It's called the reticular activating system. It's like when you've heard a new word, or you've seen a new car or a new color, and you've never seen it before. What happens?
Nothing. No,
But-
you start seeing it everywhere or start hearing it everywhere. So yeah.
Exactly. It's called the reticular activity.
Questions
Tell
on
us
my
what
script.
happens.
It's like I should have picked a bigger, more intelligent crowd to ask these questions.
We'll ask the questions, Keith.
Yeah.
No, you just stick to just shutting up, Lynam, and I'll ask the question. Yeah, you start to see it everywhere. Well, that's the same way with your buyers and sellers. When they're engaged and they're buying a house or they're selling their house, they're off the chart. So everybody now that's around them that's selling and buying, they're in tune with. And so the mistake that a lot of agents make is, when do they ask for referrals?
At the end of the deal.
At the end of the deal, when those guys are like, oh my God, thank God we got rid of it. Now they've shut down their reticular activity. Now it's shut down. When it's during the transaction is the best time. And they will bring it up. They will say, hey, you know what? I was talking to Tom and Tom's ready to buy too. Or Jennifer's going to sell. Or the Smiths are getting divorced. Whatever it is, they're gonna bring it up to you at that point.
So you're go ahead. You by you reaching out to them, you're creating an experience as you're going through the transaction. And I think getting referrals, the experience that you put your current clients through is going to be a big determinant if they're going to refer you or not. What are some of the other things you do, or what recommendations could you give people to create a good experience or a great experience, unbelievable experience for your clients?
I think expectations is huge, and I think it's even bigger now that you've got buyers, that we've got a different way that we have to communicate with buyers. And so you're absolutely right, 1,000%. And this brokerage is one that's built on experience and how the client has experienced their transaction through the brokerage. But you're absolutely 1,000% right. The thing that when you ask them what they want right up off the bat, how do you want to be communicated with? What is your past experience? Why I've got a 16 question for my listings and about a 12 for my buyers, and they revolve around that questions. Have you ever bought real estate before? And if you have, how did that experience go? And if you could change something, what would you change? And if you could do something more, that agent could have done something more in that, what would that have been? Well, that tells me exactly what I need to know, how they want their experience to go, and I don't have to make it up. I'm now going to treat them with the platinum rule, how they want to be treated. Not how I treat everybody else, but how they want to be treated. So that I found that's key in it all, and again to communicating and how they want to be communicated with, but also how they want to be treated. Do they want people there for the inspections? Do they want? And I'm big on that whole thing. We can talk about that at a different time, but those are keys to the whole thing. And then expectations. Here's how we work. Here's how we get to the end for you. Here's how we protect you every step of the way. And here's how I engage with you every step of the way. I mean, that experience I found is it makes them comfortable. It takes the stress out of it a lot of times where they just, hey, we trust you. If they don't trust you, you're in trouble.
So go ahead, Chris.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
Keith, so one of the things you said earlier, and for anyone just tuning in, the idea that we talked about the fact you got to have business to have a great customer experience, right? And so if you're not spending your time generating those deals and things like that, you could have a great experience no one experiences. But when you're doing this, it sounds like to me like you build long-lasting relationships, friendships that continue on. Not that every client needs to be your best friend, but they know what you do, they understand how you do it. As you go through the process and the process wraps up, I hear from clients or from agents all the time, what should I get my client to say thank you? What should I do to show gratitude? What should I do to kind of tie them in? Should I host an event every year and bring them back together? What's your thoughts on that? Do you do something every year for clients? Do you give them gifts? I mean, I think I've kind of been a little lackluster on this item that I need to fix in my business.
Yeah, beyond the gift of myself, yeah, that's something that I've kind of. No, Chris, you're right. I used to do a quarterly event. I need to get back to that. Hey, we're not perfect as well. There's things that we need to do better. I need to do better in my business. But here's one thing that I have done throughout, and I don't even know where I picked it up from. Is yeah, I give them a gift. I used to give out pens for them to sign it. But then somebody reminded them that you just remind me every time I see that pen of the thousands of dollars I'm going to pay for this house that I'm now divorced in. My wife left me, the kids hate me, all this stuff. So,
Here's your pen.
but I try to find something that's personal to them. As we developed a relationship, as we've gone through there, I've figured out something. I've done fly fishing, reels. I've done a lot of things, but they have to be personal. That's number one. So I don't have just a stock thing that I send to everybody. And try to be personal. But here's the thing that I've gotten the most feedback out of everything is I tell them, look, we got all the repairs, we've done all this stuff. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to go into that house and you're going to live in that house. I said, give it 3 weeks to a month and write down all the little stuff that just drive you crazy. The light switch that doesn't turn on and off anything. You looked all over the place. Or is something, whatever doesn't work. The patio door now, it's like, but create a list. And I'm going to send my handyman over there and he's going to fix the entire list.
Wow.
And I said, give it 3 weeks to a month because you want to live in it. You want to figure it out. But then I say, and I take care of that, and obviously if it's something major, we're going to have a discussion, but, I don't think it's ever cost me more than $500 or $600, which is usually in the price point I'm in. That's what most people are given a gift. And do you think that they don't appreciate the hell out of that? Absolutely. They tell people about that more than they'll ever say about the bottle of champagne or the corkscrew or whatever else that they've come up there. The charcuterie.
Yeah, those are nice. So I like charcuterie.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well, we both do.
I like I like that idea. I bought a car not too long ago, and when you buy the car, they do like kind of a walkthrough of the car, and they spend some time showing you where everything is, and then you leave the lot, and then you can't find the trip button or whatever. And this dealership actually did a redelivery about 3 weeks later where they came out and to my house or my office, but they came to my house and went through and made sure my car was programmed to the garage door and went through asked it if I had any questions and stuff and redelivered it. And I just thought that was a cool idea to bring to real estate. And it sounds like by having your handyman take care of that stuff, that's almost like that. So
that's phenomenal customer service because when you're sitting there and it's just like you're drinking out, like everything's brand new, all the dashboard stuff, everything's going, and then you finally get accustomed to it, and then that's phenomenal. That's great. That's next level. That's good to great. next level service. And as an industry, that's where we need to start. I mean, you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times. Stop trying to be better and start trying to be different, and figure out different ways of going it. Because you'll never be better than everybody, and because there's always somebody that's better than better. But be different and be the best at that.
So I remember I had this client for many, many years. He was an investor. He bought fourplexes. That was his main thing. And he was a real estate agent in Canada. They have them too. And I sent him a gift after the first fourplex that closed. And it was a bottle of wine because I knew he drank wine. And not that he was drunk every time I saw him or anything, but he actually called me up and he said, "Hey, I just want to say thank you for the bottle of wine, but I did want to provide you some advice." And I said, "Okay." And he says, "After I drink this bottle of wine, it will be gone. And my thoughts of you may not still be here unless we're in another deal." And he says, "So I've always recommended in my business that you give something that lasts." And he goes, "You know, that ugly candy dish that your grandmother gave you as an inheritance that some realtor gave her 35 years before, that's something that lasts. And every time I look at it and see it, I think of you." And I go back to Wes Graham, who we all know is a great realtor in New Mexico. When I got married, he was at my wedding 20 years ago almost now. And he gave me the ugliest silver dish I've ever seen in my life. Like, this thing is ugly. It was expensive, but ugly. And it sits in a place of honor in every home I've ever owned, or every home that Amy and I have lived in. And every time I walk by it, I think of him. And so what I love about your personal piece, Keith, is every time they walk by that light switch, and it does work now, they think of you. And every time, you know, that light that you fixed and the things that happen, they think of you. That those are things that really do last. And I think that's a good tie-in for closing gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I will tell you, I had a horror story though. I had this gal that works with me, and we had decided to do closing gifts based on people's personal interests. And I didn't monitor the list. And so one of my agents on my team wrote on the list, "The guy is a pothead." And so the gal doing the gifts went out and bought everything that she could find with CBD oil in it and put together this gift basket. And I got to tell you, this guy promoted the hell out of it everywhere online. "Look what my realtor did for me. I thought I was going to get arrested for a drug deal because we gave this guy a basket full of pot." So there are good and there are bad, but at least you're thinking of them.
And it turns out he was a gardener. He was talking about pots, as pots for grow plants.
Yeah. Parrot head. He was a parrot head.
That turned on you. Brandon, you had something I could just tell. I could just tell Brandon's going to smirk.
I don't know if I want to encourage you or not. So, like, tell us a story about maybe a referral you got from somebody that turned into like a long-term client, or give us a kind of a chain or a value of a client.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll give you. It's actually two stories. One, we, as we all did back in the day, advertising in magazines. We had our listings in there, and I learned a couple things. But I always thought, well, you know, the center page. It's always the most expensive. So the center page, I thought, well, that's the page I want to be in. So I was on the center page, had to pay more, had to wait, do all this stuff. Well, I get a call. And the guy said, "You know what? I started at the first page, and you're the first one that I've called that has actually answered." And I started thinking, well, shit, I should be on the first page then, because he got all the way through. What happens if one of these guys would have answered in the middle? I never would have heard from this guy. And as it turns out, to this day, he is still the best client I've ever had. And he had a unique, I mean, the side of it, and I had nothing to do with me. He had a unique ability of being able to buy a new home in one of the first two phases and then selling it towards the end. He made literally millions of dollars back in the 06, 07 period before everything crashed. But I became friends with him. He was his parents came over. They were Iranian. Came over the fall of the Shah fell. They came over. Just a great story about how this guy came and really didn't have a whole lot and built themselves up. And so I became personal friends with him, and I started sending him personal things. And I just developed, even before the Ninja and the Boom Producer, I just started sending him things and keeping, got to know his wife, got to know his kids. He got to know my child, Kyla. And so how did that work? When we were in another transaction, his cousin says, you know what? My cousin has been seeing what I'm doing over here in Vegas. I want you to meet your cousin. He's coming over. I can't come with him. So he introduced me to his cousin. His cousin ended up buying 3 or 4 homes. My good friend, he was in the auto business. He had a tow yard and dismantling, and the original guy. He had a friend. That one relationship ended up with 6 or 7 other referrals that all came over here that were interested in what he was doing, that knew I was going to treat them well. And so it was all built on personal relationships. Yeah, it started with an ad, but it ended because of a personal relationships that you build, and you got personalized with them, and you sent them things of value the whole time.
It's cool that you said that, because in Brandon's Academy, he talks about a spider web. I talk about my pillars of business. You talk about being different instead of better. And all of these different little fields that you put time into have the same end result, where you meet a person, you convert it to a relationship, and then you use whatever your follow-up process is to make it happen. I want to talk for a second about something we all have in common that we all have received business from, and that's our service with the National Association of Realtors. We all have gone to these conventions. We've all gone through different levels of it, different committees, different structures. And it's ironic to me that I'm meeting other realtors doing the same thing that I'm supposed to be doing. I meet them across the country, and I give them a card, and we form a relationship that we nourish. And I'm not asking them for business. I mean, that's not the way it happens. You just introduce yourself and you get to know them, you share a drink or a meal, and then this relationship flourishes. And I think that it's funny, in the history of my brain, of my real estate business, it's been one organization after the next that I've been part of. The place I went to high school at, I went to the 3 months of college and had some people there. The local watering hole by my house, National Association of Realtors, Nevada Realtors. All of these are little micro groups of a database or a sphere that you've been able to cultivate. Keith, talk about Montana. I mean, for you, you've gotten business from your alumni in Montana. It works the same way, right?
Absolutely. I mean, they're farms. Everybody's used to the word farm. You farm relationships too, and that's not a bad way. Again, I don't sell. And here's an interesting part of the Montana connections. For the last 10 years, it's coming up in May, first weekend in May, from a little town in western Montana. 3,500 is the town that I grew up in. And there's all graduated, all within 5 or 6 years of us. There's usually about 20 guys that come down to Vegas the first weekend. This is the 10th year. About 5 years ago, I ran into a guy he's about 6 or 7 years older than me. Well, I find out that they've got a group that have been coming to Vegas that same weekend. It's Kentucky Derby weekend. So 1 year in my place, I had almost 60 guys, all guys, from Deer Lodge, Montana, that town of about 3,500. I mean, it's unheard of.
It was empty.
Yeah, exactly. Crime was down. I'll tell you that. Crime was down.
Bars were empty.
People were free. Thank God they're gone. But so how did that turn into? I started talking, and people were asking me, you're in real estate, how's the market, all that, and blah blah blah. But here is the key: is where can we sell real estate?
Anywhere.
There's licensees. Where can we sell? Exactly. And that's the key of saying, look, I don't care if you're moving from Montana to Iowa, or you're moving from one city to another. If you don't have a relationship, let me know. I can take care of you. I can refer you to a great agent so that you are taken care of. That was the biggest switch for me, is to figure out if they're out of town or not, we can still help them. And I think a lot of agents kind of forget it. Well, my client that I've had here in Las Vegas has moved to Kansas, so now I'm done with them. Well, hey, that's could be just the beginning of a new relationship. But at the end of the day, it's about our relationships. You can't have relationships with the screen. You've got to be developing relationships with people and our clients. And I think that's going to be more important than ever, to be able to tell your story and develop relationships, personal relationships with your clients.
What do you do? So when you've got a database, you've got to train them basically to refer business to you.
Yep.
Because they don't know you need it. Like somebody gets their license, they think you go work for a company and you just got business, right? Or you're doing your thing. So you got to train them. Is there anything special you do to encourage people to send you referrals? Or is there anything special you do when somebody does send you a referral?
Yeah, I mean, two parts of that. Yeah, I've got an insider, well, three parts, but I got an insider's newsletter that I send out to people, and then I tell a story in there. I'm big
Of
on
course you do.
yeah, I'm big on stories, as you can imagine, right? Let me tell you a story about a story I'm going to tell you here in a minute. But first, I got another story I'm going to tell you. So I've always got stories because I don't sell. So, because I'm big on saying, hey, Brandon, I know you live in Missoula, Montana. By God, if you ever move, let me know because I want to sell your house and I want to give you a realtor and I'm going to help you when you buy. But when you sell, get ready to talk to me. I'm pitching you, and I can see right now you've already shut down. You're like, just I get rid of this guy, right? That's selling. That's the dog. Versus, hey, Brandon, I want to tell you a story. Rich, who we know, he was talking to me and he said, hey, I'm moving to Aberdeen, Washington. This is actually a true story. Aberdeen, Washington, and we're just getting some stuff on the internet. And I said, wait a minute, let me call you back. So I went on and I actually called Kitty Wallace. Chris knows. She's in Seattle area, got a realtor in Aberdeen, talked to them. Next thing you know, the Aberdeen is sending Rich stuff on Aberdeen. I didn't do anything. I didn't sell. And so I told him that story. I said, here's the story. Now he's really happy. He's got a great place in there. And all of a sudden, well, you know what? I'm moving to Topeka, Kansas. So I don't sell, I tell a story. Here's something that I've done. Meanwhile, that they didn't know I could do, that I could refer them to other places. And I think everybody's got to be able to tell those stories, to not sell, but just to inform where we're at. What do I do for referrals? That's, I just take, here's the question I ask a lot of agents. When do you send, whatever you do for referrals, when do you do it? Most of them say, after I got the referral, after I close, then I'll sell. I send it right away.
Yeah.
I said, as soon as they give me a name, I send them it's a gift card to wherever. If I find out the restaurant they like, I'll send them a dinner. I'll do it right off the bat. I don't care if that person may never call me ever, but I don't want to wait because then they're like, okay, if I send it right away, they're going to be grateful for that no matter what. They know I didn't get anything out of it. I'm sending them that. So, but I usually do it a restaurant, something like that.
I like the way you said that because I had a coach years ago that said, sell the success of the referral to the person referring you. Like, I tried this in my business and then I was surprised at how well it worked. I had this client, Tiffany. She was a pharmacist. She did a transaction with me. There were some things within her transaction. I said, can I count on you for some referrals? She said, absolutely. Then she sent me her friend, Allison. I called Tiffany immediately and said, oh my God, thank you so much for Allison. I'm going to be helping them search tomorrow. And then I took them out, found them the perfect home. They wrote an offer. And I said, oh my God, Tiffany, thank you so much. They just wrote an offer on their dream home. And then as it was going through closing, I said, oh, thank you so much. And by doing that through the transaction, it caused everyone to participate and feel really good about it. And I think that's the mistake most agents make in referrals is they don't sell the value of what happened. Just like you said, talk to the client every day. Well, don't forget about that person who started it all. Tell them every day. I think that's a huge point that people need to interject. And it's an easy way to have a conversation about real estate without feeling weird about it.
Just reminded me of something I used to do that I've kind of fell off and stopped doing is I used to take, if it was a referral, I would take a picture of us all at the signing table and send it to the referrer and say, hey, thank you. And they would say, hey, thanks for introducing me to Keith and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a good idea. And then I would show them the value. I'd hop in my Lamborghini and take off and I'd show that on PhD. I've never had a Lamborghini.
Yeah, people will refer people to you if they know they'll be taken care of. And by what Chris is describing, of updating through the process, they know they're being taken care of. And by you saying, hey, immediately when I get the referral, I'm rewarding the act of them remembering to send me referrals, not the closing of a referral, but the actual act of referring somebody to me. So those are very valuable points.
Amen. Amen. And that goes back to the storytelling and everything else. It's how they feel about your interaction with you.
So what I think is ironic about this, and I'm going to say that this is pretty much true about all three of us. We've all been in the business quite some time. We've all had good success with past clients and a spirit of influence and working those groups. And what's ironic about it is that we all receive business every single year from a group of people that isn't in some amazing CRM system, that isn't in some amazing Rolodex on the desk. It's the fact that we can pick up the phone and have conversations with people and talk to them. And because of that fact, no matter how well you do it or how weird you do it, Keith, they're going to send you business every single year. And that's why I go back to the point we made in the very beginning, that if you spent 18 months or 24 months of hardcore prospecting, cold calling, open houses, door knocking, pounding the pavement, whatever it is, to create a group of people in mini groups, by the way, what we talked about, and you're in front of them, treating them like people that you care about, they're going to send you business no matter what system you're in or what process you go through. And I think that that's the realization I got from you, Keith. I mean, what a great business you have. And he really does, folks. He sells high end, high right. I mean, he's so many floors up, you have oxygen tanks he has to give to people, right? But I mean, like, it happens that way. That's unimaginable, 20 years later.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to I think this changing market, this disruptive market is going back to how well you develop and maintain your relationships and how well you tell your story. The days of the buyer agent being able to come in and say, "Hey, this doesn't cost you anything. I'm free to you." Well, that was their value. Their value was zero. They were absolutely right. Well, now you got to come in and prove your value. And I see a lot of times where even buyer's agent, not the topic, but I don't tell them what the co-op. So if the agent calls me and asks if they're going to be a co-op, I said, yes, we're paying co-op. But they ask how much, I say, put it in your RPA, send it over to us. That's where we negotiate it. I'm not going to tell you what his bottom line is on his sales number. I'm not going to tell you what his top line is on his co-op. That's part of what's changed. And you know what? I have yet to have a buyer's agent send me what they would be willing to go to. They've all showed it underneath it. And a good old friend of mine, he said, every time you go out to dinner, he'd ask the waitress or the waiter how much of a tip that they thought they deserved. I thought that was kind of brutal. But he said, I have never had him come back with a number that I wouldn't have paid way less than what I would have paid.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's a mindset.
That's interesting. When I was in, I took German in junior high, and before they handed out the grades, he'd call you, he'd sit down with each and every one of you and ask you, what do you think you deserve? And you want to say an A, but you said a B, and then when he tells you you get an A, then it feels that much better. So it's kind of cool in that. But I know a lot of agents use social media and they hide behind social media, thinking they're communicating with clients and stuff like that. Do you use social media at all to communicate, or how do you use social media in your referral business?
I do more in my coaching stuff than I do in more of the mindset stuff. But again, that's one of the things. I want this year to be different from my personal side of things. That's kind of one of the first. That is one of the things that I've kind of determined that I need to do this year. So yeah, I've seen some just horrendous, like, are you shitting me kind of social media stuff out there. It's like, I don't know what that's got to do with anything. It's got nothing to do with real estate. I don't know what you're pitching woo, but that's about it. And one of the things that, and I think the guy from Utah, God, name just fell out of my head, from Scott.
Yeah.
I think he's find out what they're looking for and sell that. That's not what he said, but find out what they're looking for. For me, it's always been find what questions they have and answer them. And so that's what the social media part I'm going to do. I did a few years ago. I just ran into a Doodly. Remember Doodly, the little things that you put
You
out?
draw the cartoons.
Yeah. And mine was the 4 greatest fears of a buyer and the 3 greatest fears of the seller. And so I'm going to start answering those. And yeah, you got to have personality to it. You got to be there and tell the story, but you're answering something that they want to know.
So there's 2 ways to use social media, in my opinion. Obviously, you can post and educate and that kind of stuff, and a lot of what you put out there is very important. or at least we think it is when we're putting it out. But Chris is one of the best at actually reading and following what people are doing and utilizing the information he gleans off of there to communicate with people. Can you talk about that a little, Chris?
It's insider trading. I mean, that's all I can say. Is like, like I'm not kinky, but I like to watch, right? I like to understand what's going on in their lives, and this is what social media has brought the ability to do. Because when you get on the phone with somebody and you're showing that you care and you're acknowledging them, my father had an unbelievable skill that if he met you one time, he could remember your name and he'd remember everything you talked about. And for some reason, I didn't get that skill. And so I have to rely on these insider processes to reconnect me with what's going on in people's lives. And I think that's the value. But I'm going to tell you honestly, the mistake that you brought up, Brandon, and I see agents do, is no one cares about your personal issues. And you can share way too much on Facebook and Instagram and whatever you're into. And once it's out there forever, right? And if you're putting these huge commentaries on religion or political issues, which I'm not saying don't have passion and don't have belief in something, but when you put it out there, you just alienated a whole part of your database you worked hard to generate. I can't afford to alienate any of these people, but I think it's the role of you have insight into their lives. And if you're able to use that and relate to it and interject it in your conversations, how can it not be a value for a sales business? And that's how I stay up to date with all of you. I mean, I find out things that Keith does in Montana from social media. That's how it happens. That's how it rolls.
We just found out something about you that was taking a weird turn there in the beginning, Graham. I'll be honest with you.
Makes for good television.
That voyeurs thing. Yeah, no, Chris, you're right. I mean, I did Brandon too. I mean, you guys are both right.
Say that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I got a stamp. Hold on.
Yeah. So let me back up. You guys are partially right. No, you guys are 1,000% right. Just the other day, someone was just ranting and raving about politics. And I'm not going to say which side. Doesn't matter which side. And I actually ran into that person later, and I said, "Man, I'm as political and as opinionated as anybody, but man, you just go way too far." And he goes, "Well, you know what? I don't care if they don't believe in that. They don't need to work. One of those guys, right?" And he said, "I just want to be surrounded by the people that believe in what I believe." And I said, "Well, that's going to serve you well when you get to San Quentin, because that's where you're headed on some of this stuff. You're going to prison."
Yes. Well, the other thing, Keith, is I think that when a client decides on an agent or a client decides on a value that they're going to work with, it's foolish for me to think that they're not going to go and find out about me online. I mean, it's an easy way to do a non-participation interview, right? Where it's just about what I've said and it's not about what they've heard or what I've told them. And so you really have to understand, like when you're building these networks of referrals, what is it they say? It takes a lifetime to build a reputation and seconds to destroy it. And so that's what I think this all comes back to, is that you need to scrub, get the NSA to scrub your history on what's in there, and the photos that you have and the things you do and the image you portray. I have a cousin who's a real estate agent up in Seattle area, and her social media, like it looks like she went back and edited every photo and post that she had because they all look amazing. Like there's not one bad hair shot in any of them. There's not one ugly picture of her kids. But she portrays an amazing image. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. But I think the point is that if I were doing research to find her as my agent, there's nothing bad I would see. It's only great things about her being a great realtor and a great person.
Amen. Amen. One of the greatest gifts fate ever gave me is they didn't come up with the internet until I was way into my 40s. So any sooner I'm in trouble.
So it's crazy. An hour just goes by so fast talking to you two. Keith, before we go though, is there one piece of advice, one thing that you would our listeners can take away?
Two things. One, stop isolating. Come into the office, no matter what office you're in. If in Nevada, Utah, come into the office and surround yourself with abundance. And the second is I start every year and I give it's called the sheet of abundance, where it talks about these are the deals that you do if you just work the deals. And that is the 9 things that I ask them to do every day, every week. And the second is just don't give up. Encourage yourself. If you need something to break yourself out, reach out to one of our brokers. I think our experience, the signature experience, is by far better than any brokerage that's out there, and that we have different personalities that can get you over the hump. And every one of us want to do that. We're here for your benefit, to make sure that you're successful. And I know that every one of us share that as a value.
Perfect. How about you, Chris? Any parting words?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say is stop eliminating people from your database for weird reasons. Like everyone, like when you're starting out, and if you've been doing this for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years like myself, every year or every 2 years, I reinvent my database and I pull in everybody that was there, all the groups that I was part of. I mean, really think back to your alumni classes, your high school, the little league team that you were on that never won. All of those things were common connection points that you have with people. And if you were to reset and re-engage all of them, what new friendships and clients you would probably find, it'd be staggering. And so great. And make sure you're also utilizing the people out of state, because like Keith said, out of state referrals have become a major play in my business. And they're amazing because they're only interviewing you because someone told them that you were the person to utilize. And so I would say open it up to all that.
Great points.
Awesome. So Keith, thank you for jumping on here today and sharing all your wisdom with us. I just want you to know that you're a valuable asset to the leadership team and Signature. The knowledge, the skills, the experiences, your stories are all of value to agents. And if you don't know Keith, please reach out to him. He's always there to help, not just when there's a problem. He can help you through a lot of different things. So until next time, Signature, keep building relationships, growing your business through referrals, and we'll see you on the next episode. And remember, we're always affirming your success.